Hey there, it's Spencer Hughes with another questions and answers with Spencer Hughes. I haven't come up with a better name, and neither have you, so that's what I'm calling it for now. I don't know what else to call it. I'm a pretty imaginative guy, except when it comes to giving titles to things. Even my podcast episodes, as obvious as the titles are, I struggle with them sometimes. Anyway, you can find me at hughesfromtheheart.com. I recently posted on my social media a Q&A session, and I got some great questions, some funny, sarcastic ones too, and I will try to get to most of the serious ones with due time. This one comes from Adam Z. Now, I say Z because I'm struggling with the pronunciation of his last name. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pronounce it every way I think it can be pronounced. And one of them, by definition, would be correct, unless I'm totally missing the boat. It's spelled Zappe. Now, the Hispanic would be Zappe. I don't know if he's Hispanic or not. I don't know that he is. I don't know that he isn't. Adam Zappe, with the E being silent. Zappe, Zappy, uh, Zape. Have I said that? As in zaping, vaping? Zappe. So Adam Z, I call you for short because I don't want to botch your name, even though I probably just did. But Zape, Zappe, Zappe, Zape. One of those has to be right, right? He asks a great question. He says he misses the days when I was on Fox Across America, but he really likes the new direction that I've taken with my positivity format on hughesfromtheheart.com, which is my daily podcast, heard now in 585 cities around the world, 37 countries and growing. And you can be a part of it. I'm going to keep the website up right down here below my Don't Blink shirt. This is not a Led Zeppelin shirt. It is a Doctor Who shirt, but gotcha. Well, here's what happened, Adam. I've been asked this by a lot of people, so thanks for asking the question. I get to answer it here for everybody. I had done controversial, conflict-oriented talk radio for more than 20 years easily. I started with the Spencer Hughes Show back in 1994, December 31st, 1994, on the then newly rebooted KSFO radio in San Francisco. Legendary call letters, legendary flamethrower of that city, and it's still one of the most respected call letters in American radio history, KSFO. It had started as a music station, kind of oldies and stuff. Great personalities came out of that, those sets of call letters, that set of call letters. And then it became conservative talk radio. I was the first live and local host, a little trivia for you here, to debut on that. Michael Savage would disagree, but he didn't come on until his show was Monday through Friday, so he couldn't have beaten me to it because I believe I debuted, I had a weekend show, so I debuted Saturday or Sunday, but it was New Year's Eve, 1994. And it was very exciting at the time, but very, very conflict oriented, which maybe at my age then, I was just in my 20s. I was spunkier then, and I was still kind of in love with the Rush Limbaugh style show, emulated a lot of things that Rush Limbaugh did at the time, kind of us versus them, calling disagreeable calls names. I cringe now at some of the stuff that I call people, idiots and dummies, just because they disagreed with me. And a lot of you don't like the fact that I've changed my views on a lot of things, but I've evolved. I have had a reboot of the brain, if you will, and I've matured politically. I am not a political being anymore. It's not about right versus left for me anymore. It's about what I need to do for myself and my family to be happy on this physical plane that we have for just a few decades until we pass on back into the spiritual realm where I believe we came from to begin with. So I'm much more of a philosophical spiritual guy now than a controversial pound the desk political duddle up, duddle up, duddle up, duddle up Rush Limbaugh type character. And I like myself better this way. My family certainly does as well. It got to the point, Adam, to answer your question, what were some of the mitigating factors? I was getting stressed out all the time. I was always agitated. I would carry over the agitation and the conflict from the show into my regular day-to-day life with my family and friends. I was getting antagonistic with my wife and kids. I was carrying over the radio show into my daily life, which is not a thing you want to do. And I wasn't able to separate that anger from the show to my anger in real life. And it was just making me sick from the inside out. And it was making my family sick. I remember I was podcasting from this very room when we moved here in July of 2018 to the Pacific Northwest. This very room started off as my political podcast room for Hughes from the Heart. And I would be yelling so loud my wife could hear me clear across the house. It's not a huge house, but it's far enough away that she shouldn't hear me. Right now, she shouldn't be hearing me. She's asleep. If I were doing the old format, I'd be getting a boot to the head, and deservedly so, because I'd be waking up the whole house. It's 6:30 in the morning right now as I do this video. So I remember my wife and I remember what the topic was. It was illegal immigration, and we talked about that. And then I started thinking, God, I'm just so conflict oriented still to this day. And this was 2018 when I made the transition. I remember when it was, because we had just moved in July. It was probably shortly thereafter, maybe even in July or August, when I was podcasting the political stuff, which I had carried over from my California studio when we moved from California. And I didn't like who I was becoming. And I had to have that pointed out to me. My wife was pointing out things that should have been obvious to me, but weren't. That I was just constantly agitated, kind of a grouch, and really kind of an a-hole to be around anymore. And I said, you know what? This is getting me nowhere. It's getting me nothing but agitation and high blood pressure, and I need to stop. So I stopped, and I do local radio now at a very wonderful, privately owned, company-owned radio station that's now one of the conglomerates, and I hope it stays that way. It has a level of independence I've never had at any radio station I've ever worked at before. It's iFiber 1 KMAS. It's owned by a local fiber company here based east of the mountains here in Washington State. And this is the only radio station that they own. And what I love about it is that they're leaving it up to us, the radio guys, to run the show. Jeff Slakey is my co-host and program director, and he and I and Rod Olson, the salesman, we're running the show basically, and they're giving us total freedom to do that. I've never, even at the 50,000 watt flamethrowers, I've worked at some of the most legendary radio stations in the country and in the world. And I'm not saying that to brag, I'm just saying it because it's the truth. And I have never had the level of freedom or really ever achieved the level of happiness that I have now. It's a smaller potato station, much smaller market. Shelton, Washington doesn't even register on the list of markets, really, I wouldn't think. We are 90 minutes by ferry, about 2 hours away in traffic to Seattle, in bad traffic, about 2 hours. So we're definitely not necessarily included in the Seattle numbers, but we work on the periphery of Seattle. It would be like working, a couple hours away from San Francisco or something like that. I don't mind that. My ego is not as big as it used to be, thank God, and I'm working every day to kill my ego. So my ego from the 90s would have said, what am I doing in Shelton, Washington? I want to be in San Francisco. I want to be in New York City or Los Angeles or Phoenix or Chicago. And the me of today says, you know what? I am so happy broadcasting out of Shelton, Washington. I couldn't be happier. So that's the transition. The mitigating factors were I was miserable all the time. I was an a-hole to be around. My anger levels were off the charts. My agitation levels were off the charts. And bottom line, Adam and others who are watching this video, it didn't get me anywhere. It didn't change anything. A few people disagree and have written me over the years and say, you know what, you changed my mind on capital punishment. You changed my mind on illegal immigration. And now I've changed my mind on all these things. So I kind of feel bad. I feel almost as if I led people astray back in the 90s and beyond when I was doing political talk radio, because a lot of people heard what I said and said, you know what, he's right. But now I'm saying I was wrong. So what does that mean? That they're wrong now, or can they stick to their beliefs? Do they have to make the transition and admit they were wrong? That's up to the individual. It's wrong for me. It doesn't mean it's wrong for you. So I hope that answered your question, Adam. I know it's a long video here. I'm trying to make these around 5 to 10 minutes, depending on the complexity of the question and the in-depth nature of the answer and stuff. So thank you very much, Adam, for asking this. Everyone, please join my podcast. I really need your help. I can barely keep these lights on for the podcast, and I'm not exaggerating. The podcast is not anywhere near self-sufficiency levels. We need to be at around 2,500 to 3,000 paid subscribers every month. And you can check it out for free. The link that I'm putting up on the screen is for the free content. I'm not trying to sell you anything off the bat. It's hughesfromtheheart.com. But please, I am asking you, if I've entertained you and informed you over the last 30 years on the radio, and you want to support me in what I'm doing now, which for me is the biggest labor of love I've ever undertaken. This is near and dear to my heart than any radio or podcasting or anything else that I've done over the last 30 years of my life. I'm 50 now, so that's more than half my life. This is my labor of love. Hughes from the heart. I'm trying to put positive energy into the world. We podcast on mindset, the importance of how mindset is everything. Mindset matters. Mindfulness, meditation, minimalism, the law of attraction, Zen, happiness, the things that matter most in life, health and wellness with an emphasis on mental health, because we need to talk about that more. So those are the topics we discuss, and great guests, as you'll see from the free content at hughesfromtheheart.com. The guests I always make free. I want to make it so that the guests can share with their networks of people and followers and friends and family, and then the podcast gets even bigger that way, hopefully. I cannot grow this podcast without your help. Please join today, hughesfromtheheart.com, and then click that support button at the top and join the podcast. Make a donation to my Venmo, which is Radio Spencer. I'll put that up on the screen as well. Thank you, Adam. Thanks to all the other people who have asked me this question over the last few years. What was the mitigating factor or factors that led me to change direction from political talk radio to positivity and positive-minded and positive vibes type topics? There you have it. Hope you like the answer. That's the one I'm sticking to. Thanks, my friends, for watching, and we will talk again real soon. Ask me a question. You can send me one through these posts, like I posted on Facebook, but anytime through my email, through my website, hughesfromtheheart.com/contact. And I'll get back to you, and I'll do what I can to answer the question if it's a serious one. If it's just kind of a silly one, quirky one, I might address it in jest on one of these videos. But send me a real question. Just don't be confrontational. Let's not get political. We talk about politics without getting political with each other. I don't want to be agitated. I don't want to agitate you. That's not the nature of what we're doing here. But it could be about the paranormal, philosophy. It could be about my change in eating habits. It could be about anything, really. Minimalism, how I've tried to become a minimalist over the last several years. Stuff like that. Human interest stories really interest me, those types of questions. So fire away.